Boa noite a todos. Hello, everyone. My name is Paula Minardi. I am an MBA and Master's in Education student at Stanford University and the Chief of Staff of Brazil at Silicon Valley. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the fourth week of BSV Digital, a series of live panels about technology and innovation focused on Brazil. In today's panel, we have two exciting
Boa noite a todos. Hello, everyone.
I apologize for the technical failure here. In today's panel, we have two exciting events. We will begin with our startup battle, a pitch-based competition that will take place in the first 30 minutes of our session. We will hear from selected Brazilian startups that are competing for a spot in Google for Startups exclusive acceleration program. Then, at 9 p.m. Brazil time, we will start the panel from Made in China to Design in China with Dr. Kai-Fu Lee and Roberto Marinho Neto. Before we start, I would like to thank our sponsors and partners. Brazil at Silicon Valley is only possible because of them. I would like to especially thank our hosts today. BTG Pactual, the largest investment bank in Latin America and one of the most innovative players in the sector, with 37 years of history as a meritocratic partnership. Global Ventures, a company that invests in innovative businesses and supports entrepreneurs that are helping democratize access to products and services throughout Brazil. And Magalu, a leading consumer-based company that pivoted from brick-and-mortar stores to becoming the largest digital platform in Brazil. Now, I invite you all to enjoy the digital version of our startup battle.
Hi everyone, I'm Rafael Petersen, founder of Cosmobots, and I'm going to talk about customer service automation. Today, more than half of consumers that get bad customer service give up and go to the competition. And it's not exactly a human fault. We were not made for repetitions, but consumers want solutions and fast deliveries, and that's when chatbots come into play. Chatbot is the best solution to solve these problems, but there are a few challenges. Good customer experience demands complex implementation, lots of training data, and a high cost, making it exclusive to big companies. But we are seeing a great opportunity for companies of all sizes. Applications like WhatsApp have become one of the most important channels for business. And that's why I present to you Cosmobots, a platform for customer service automation. We have a complete platform for chatbots that can be created by any person with no technical skills and have made available many bot templates, pre-trained and connected to WhatsApp. Our bots can act on the first contact with consumers, as well as giving support to other humans on every customer service layer. We have one of the most self-service solutions, helping us focus on SMB and startups. Our big competitors still rely on selling licenses for human agents, and we don't have this dilemma. We are a 2-year-old company. Our platform has more than 3,000 bots created with more than 1 million messages per day, impacting more than 50,000 people daily in 5 countries in Latin America. Our business model is SaaS. Our plans go from free to enterprise with the lowest cost per message in the market. We believe that in the future, not so far away, almost 100% of customer service will be handled by chatbots, and we are paving this road. Feel free to get in touch. Thank you, guys.
Hi, my name is Doug Clayton. I'm one of Instantiza's co-founders. We're a Brazilian startup which produces digital-first videos. There are videos up to 30 seconds long in motion design, which deliver high performance, they're customized at scale, and have really short turnaround times. We're the first company in Latin America to become a YouTube Ads global partner, one of 16 in the whole world to receive that badge. That's because of the problem we solve. Pretty much every single brand has a massive challenge when reaching out or impacting their audiences in the digital environment. We have a diverse team from the founders through all of our departments, and our clients include global market leaders such as L'Oreal, Nestlé, Colgate, and many more. We are now bringing to market Instant Teaser Multiply, where we're going to scale Instant Teaser's digital-first video production capabilities in order to allow small businesses to have the same resources as large brands. We are launching the product focusing on the franchising industry, where franchisees will be able to customize the franchisor's Instant Teasers by swapping assets and information in order to cater to specific context, such as products they might or might not have in stock, local audiences, people who live in different areas that have different tastes and different habits, and most importantly, drive action through customized CTAs, such as shop address or a telephone number. We initially planned to launch the product in Q3, but because of the coronavirus, we pre-launched an MVP version in order to help NGOs and local businesses fight the crisis behind the pandemic, something we're very proud of. Now, more than ever, all brands must communicate effectively online, and Instant Teaser Multiply is here to help. Thank you.
Brazil is the biggest litigator country per capita in the world. It has around 78 million cases pending in the courts, and every 5 seconds a new case is launched. 83% of these cases pertains to companies who spend 40 billion a year on court and legal fees. The process is expensive and cumbersome. To solve conflicts, companies, consumers, and employees need to initiate a case in court, hire lawyers, and wait an average of 6 years for a sentence. 50% of those 78 million cases can be solved through ADR, alternative dispute resolution, such as mediation and negotiation. In 2016, Brazil introduced a new law that makes mediation mandatory for civil and labor cases. In that same year, we launched the MOL, an online dispute resolution platform where people, companies, and institutions can solve conflicts with the help of a third party, a mediator, or negotiate directly between the two conflicting parties. The platform automates the whole process, from submission of a case or thousands of cases to a signature of a binding agreement. Everything is done digitally. So far, we have processed 70,000 cases for leading companies in Brazil. Our online process reduced the time to resolution to a maximum of 1 week, cutting costs for our clients by 50% and increasing the agreement rate by 100%. During the pandemic, as the Brazilian courts stopped judicial mediations, we offered our platform and are now implementing it in several state courts. The state of Amazonas started with great results. 90% of parties invited have used our platform. We believe that solving dispute can be as easy as ordering an Uber, renting a place with Airbnb, or watching Contact on Netflix. Thank you.
Did you know that a farmer in Brazil sometimes wait more than 5 months to access credit for costing their production? My name is Gustavo Alves, I'm an agro founder and I'm also a farmer. I had this experience when I needed credit for cover my soybean costs. It was when I realized how difficult it is to access a good credit in Brazil. For agribusiness, timing is crucial. There's a planting and a harvest season, and credit in the wrong time could be a death factor of their business and livelihood. On the same time, we have the financial institutions looking for good return and solid investments, but with limited access to agribusiness market. Brazilian agribusiness is still credit dependent. 43% of ag GDP is financed, and farmers face a really bad experience asking for credit, spending around 52 days waiting. The main need is for costing operation. More than $6 billion annually just for costing grains and soybean and coffee at Brazil Central. This market grew up almost 3% during the COVID crisis, and there's a great advantage compared to other sectors that use solid collaterals. Looking into it, we create Nagro's platform, a credit marketplace for agribusiness, where farmers can access the best credit options and lenders can find all the data they need to make good deals. We create a data-driven platform where we apply AI and big data since credit origination, risk analysis, formalization, and monitoring. To farmers, we deliver a centralized access to credit. To lenders, we help them providing technologies to support credit process, providing, besides credit, all financial tools they need. We're just beginning, but since 2017, Nagro delivered more than $30 million in credit, with a 2% default rate and more than 3,000 farmers assisted. Nagro team is composed by me as agribusiness specialist, Vinicius, our tech guy, Leonardo, the economist, and Marcus, a lawyer specialist in agribusiness. Since the beginning, Nagro team works hard, not just for credit, not just for farming, but to develop rural areas and provide food safety.
Hi, my name is Caio. I'm the founder of Real2You, and I'm going to share with you a tool that we have built that's going to change how animations and movies with CGI are made. While training our computer vision models, we needed to create thousands, sometimes millions of renders. And what is a render? A render is an image of a 3D model. Who uses a render? Computer vision companies, movies, animation studios, architect studios of those photos about how your new house is going to look like. But how do you make one? You use a lot of computer power. While trying to do it at your own local station, it's not fast enough. So a lot of big companies, they rely on render farms to make their renders. But however, while trying those out, they were not fast enough. So we had to build our own.
Hi, my name is Nachi. I'm a developer at Real2You, and I'm about to tell you how I built the fastest render farm in the world. So usually, what a normal render farm does is splitting frames so that each machine can process an individual frame. But why should we stop at that, you might ask? Why split a frame into a single machine when we can use more? So we looked into it, and nobody else was doing that, so we thought, well, let's try it. We created our own solution to split a frame into 10 tiles, each one going to a single machine, which means we can use 10 times the processing power of our competitors, but we aim even higher, 100 times, 1,000 times. The sky is the limit, as long as we have the cloud computing power to back it up. So, to summarize, we have a better price, and we're faster than our competitors. We are releasing Render Farm in a private beta to 17,000 Blender users early next month. Thank you very much.
Everyone knows Brazilian agriculture, but few people know that it is heavily based on that. With more than $100 billion in loans made per year, it is a massive, insecure, and complex credit market ripe for disruption. And the time to do that is now. We have new legislation regarding the agribusiness financing, we have the end of the subsidized credit in agriculture, and we have the lowering of our risk-free rate. Now is the time to bring credit to Brazilian agribusiness.
Terra Magna focused for the last couple of years in bringing safety and transparency for agricultural loans in Brazil. We listened to the needs of input retailers, agrochemical companies, and cooperatives to bring them a risk management solution for every step of their credit life cycle. We use satellite imagery and artificial intelligence to do so. Today, our system is the standard for credit concession in Brazil. We have 45 current customers and we've been monitoring 3 million hectares every week.
Our technology is based on 20 years of satellite imagery. We have an artificial intelligence algorithm to understand what happened in the past of each farm. We know what was planted, how it developed, and how was the harvest for each season over the 20 years. With that information, our clients can make a better decision on who they invest in and also understand what are the current risks of their investments. There are no limits to our artificial intelligence. We can monitor any number of farms anywhere in the world.
This is the opportunity, this is the technology, and this is the time. We are already deploying capital market funds into agribusiness, building the future in which every grower has access to fair credit.
Hello everyone, my name is Paula Gereissati. I'm Brazilian from Ceará, a bioscientist and VP of Business Development at Brain4Care in the United States, based off of Atlanta. At the age of 77, the physicist Sergio Mascarenhas was misdiagnosed with Parkinson's, when in reality he had normal pressure hydrocephalus. He was very uneasy knowing that the only possible way to measure intracranial pressure is an invasive way, which requires you to pierce the skull. Professor Sergio and his team devoted their effort to discover an alternative way to measure ICP and brain compliance without having to drill a hole into the skull. Thus, in 2014, Brain for Care emerged, and today we are the first health tech to monitor intracranial pressure and brain compliance by exposing the waveform in numbers in a totally non-invasive way by the bedside faster than the traditional methods. By exposing the waveform, we innovate by allowing physicians to interpret the information and prematurely identify neurological changes, which can be continuously monitored and increase assertiveness of the conduct by the bedside and reducing cost within the ICU. We perform non-invasive monitoring through our wireless sensor and cloud platform using AI to generate reports that can be viewed at any time on a mobile device of the professional responsible for monitoring. Today, we are present in 32 hospitals, impacting lives. We are carrying over 50 surveys in 4 different countries, 5 of which are related with COVID. We also have 12 published articles. In addition, we are cleared by Anvisa and FDA and is compliant with HIPAA and LGPD. We currently have 43 people spread over 3 regions, São Paulo, São Carlos, and the United States, men and women from many diverse areas such as engineering, health business, marketing, and many others. We are now on the 3rd round of fundraising, targeting education, research, in the US market. Challenging the limits of medicine to experience stories of health and happiness.
Hello guys, I'm Daniel, CEO and co-founder of CRM Educacional, a company that works with CRM for educational institutions. Speaking a little bit about our huge problem that we help institutions to solve. Here in Brazil, higher private education start their classes with 50% of seats used in these classes, and during the program the dropout can reach 40% of these seats. This is a huge problem for students and for sustainability of the institutions, and our CRM is helping this institution to solve these both problems. Our software has 2 main models. The first one is recruitment model. The institution has a better experience for applying process for these students. They have a lack of sales and marketing automation rules in omni-channel communication with these applicants. Sales and market teams has a big dependence of IT teams for take information about the funnel process. They have difficulty to understand each lead is become a student. To help institution to address this problem, our solution has smart and customizable application forms for applicants. We have marketing and sales automation in an omni-channel way, and we have also a recruitment sales funnel to help the institution to understand conversion rates. And finally, we have a lead scoring using artificial intelligence. We can help the institution to understand which lead is become a student in the future during the process. Our second model is the recruitment model. And this model connects in SAS software for this institution to take information of these students, and we help to communicate with these students to avoid the dropouts. And also we have intelligence artificial model to understand which student is going to be dropout, so we can avoid it, helping them to understand their problems, their needs, and keeping going for the finish of the course.
Incentive connects causes and projects with people and companies from all over the country. We offer an end-to-end solution to encourage companies to use their full investment potential in social responsibility. We perform potential mapping, identifying all tax incentive laws that can be used by your company at the federal, state, and municipal levels. Our goal is to ensure that sponsors feel confident and at ease in directing their taxes. The incentive platform enables companies to manage their social responsibility portfolio, monitor projects and results in real time, and measure the impact generated by each project. With a management dashboard, it's possible to analyze the return on investment and keep in touch with the proponents and beneficiaries of each project. We also offer a complete solution for managing engagement campaigns. What does that mean? Through incentive, you can involve your network in a joint cause, since the platform allows the targeting of taxes in a simple and automated way. Harness the power of the network. Engage directors, employees, and customers, and expand social investment. Nothing better than the feeling of belonging to motivate your team. There are many benefits. Taking advantage of incentive laws means making a smart investment at zero cost that brings credibility, visibility, and structured marketing and social responsibility actions. Register your company and request a contact so that together we can start this new phase.
Hello, I'm Bruno Lagueiro, physician and CEO of PebMed, a health tech startup from Brazil that develops solutions to help healthcare professionals to make better decisions. PebMed was founded in 2012 by me and my partners Pedro and Eduardo. Back that time, we were 3 young medical students who decided to create apps to help our peers. From 2012 until 2015, we developed more than 20 different apps addressing multiple medical needs, always focused on healthcare professionals. However, despite our success back that time, we were not a real business yet. In 2015, influenced by a mentor, we decided to take a sabbatical year away from medicine and dedicate our time to building a real company. We joined the 21212 acceleration program, and it was a turning point for us. During the program, we decided to take all our apps and consolidate it into one, and we launched Whitebook, which became the #1 medical app here in Brazil. With more than 8,000 different topics and tools for multiple medical specialties, Whitebook is a must-have app for doctors, helping them to make effective decisions on diagnosis and treatments. We are a freemium subscription model, and we now have more than 200,000 monthly active users and 90,000 subscribers. It means that 1 in every 3 medical students and doctors in Brazil uses Whitebook every month. We also developed 2 other products: Portal PebMed, a website for offers medical news and articles and reaches more than 2 million visitors per month, and Nursebook, an app that's similar to Whitebook but focused on nurses' challenge. Today, PebMed is no longer a startup based on 3 doctors. We have more than 100 people working on it with different skills, always motivated on one purpose: transforming Brazilian healthcare systems through a better decision making. Thanks a lot.
Hi, my name is Bruno, and I'm the founder of Prozas. You may be noticing that companies are getting more engaged and giving more money for social causes lately, especially during this tough moment we are facing now. You may also know that the social sector and the creative industry are in a constant seek for fundraising opportunities in order to change the world. Prozas is a platform that addresses both of those challenges by, on one hand, providing companies, governments, and even congressmen a platform to manage their grants to the social sector in an efficient and transparent way, and, on the other hand, working as a dynamic database for fundraising opportunities for NGOs and social enterprises. But our main value happens when we connect grant makers and the social sector in a single network, creating one of Brazil's major ecosystems for social good with over 75,000 users. So last year, we helped some of the major private and public social investors to grant almost 200 million reais to the social sector in Brazil. Around 2,500 projects received grants through our platform. Last year, we also had around 1 million unique visitors to our website and around 5 million page views. We are glad to have an amazing team of 31 people based in Belo Horizonte and São Paulo, and even more delighted to know that 57% of them are women. I hope to see you soon in a better situation, and until there, stay safe. Thanks for your attention.
Hi, I'm Andy Bucas, co-founder and CEO of Telavita, a Sao Paulo, Brazil-based platform for online therapy and mental health. Brazil has the highest prevalence of anxiety and second highest level of depression worldwide. Our mission at Telavita is to improve people's lives by democratizing access to quality mental health care. How does it work? You go onto our platform, select the psychologist of your desire, schedule a session, and conduct your session at the time and location of your convenience. Online therapy has been scientifically proven to have the same level of clinical efficacy as in-person therapy, while at the same time providing for higher adherence levels and better satisfaction due to the higher convenience. This gives our customers an economic incentive to provide online therapy to their beneficiaries. For example, a health insurance provider offering online therapy is able to reduce its level of unnecessary use of emergency services and reduce its psychiatric hospitalization levels, while an employer offering psychotherapy to its employees is able to improve the overall well-being of its employees and at the same time reduce absenteeism rates, burnout, stress levels, and low productivity. Last month, Telavita launched the first Brazil-wide, nationwide service for online psychotherapy with the health insurance provider CarePlus, part of UK-based Bupa Group. And soon Telavita is going to launch another partnership with European pharmaceutical company Sanofi to offer online psychotherapy to the patients using antidepressants. Nowadays, Telavita is conducting thousands of sessions of psychotherapy per month, and every step forwards we take is taking us closer to the level of improving people's lives by providing quality online mental health care services. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hi, my name is Fred Godelo. My mother is a seamstress and my father a street vendor. Despite of that, my parents worked hard and invested in the education of their sons. I'm the youngest of three brothers, Flavio and Fabio, respectively a lawyer and a surgeon. I'm an engineer with a degree from the Federal University of Pernambuco, and I also have a master's degree in computer science from Baylor University in New York City. We were fortunate enough to have access to education, but we know how it is to not have access to proper healthcare. And that is why, in 2016, we founded DEI Saúde, our startup that connects doctors to patients in the real and the digital world. Our suite of systems and apps allows doctors to optimize their care and also empowers the patients to have access to their caregivers and to their data. Our platform is already in use by more than 2,300 health professionals in more than 17 states of Brazil, and they're now able to connect with more than 2 million registered patients. They use our software to perform intelligent risk analysis, monitoring, and delivery of care through digital communication tools such as WhatsApp, SMS, email, and push notifications. Our white label platform makes it possible for the patient to interact with their health insurance plan, city halls, hospitals, or even independent health professionals. Since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, we are providing new ways for our caregivers to be present at the patient's home, even in times of social distancing. We gave up most of our profit in order to make the platform accessible to as many patients as possible. In the northeast of Brazil, for example, we partnered with the Telehealth Center of the Clinics Hospital of the Federal University of Pernambuco, and we brought together volunteers who made up available schedules in their agenda for free to attend not only suspects but confirmed coronavirus patients, and more than that, chronic patients who need constant monitoring, and they can no longer attend face-to-face consultations because of the risk of contamination. Right? We're building a platform for population health management, and we want to take it a step further and make these initiatives global with partnerships, customers, and volunteers from all over the world, changing the way healthcare is delivered from disease management to prevention. Thank you.
Thank you for all the startups that participated in our competition. And thank you for our partner and sponsor, Google for Startup, for making this possible. This was a glimpse of the innovative and creative minds we have in Brazil that are transforming our country even in time of crisis. At the end of our next panel, we will announce the winners of this year's Startup Battle. And now we will move on to the second event of this evening. In last year's edition, Hans Tung shared with us his perspective that technology has the power to create an unprecedented impact in global economies. and that Brazil has the potential to become the next big digital market of the world. Today, we continue this conversation with Dr. Kai-Fu Lee, Chairman and CEO of Sinovation Ventures, a $2 billion early-stage investment fund and former president of Google China. He's the writer of the international best-selling book, AI Superpowers, China, Silicon Valley, and the New World Order. Joining him, we'll have Roberto Marinho Neto, CEO of Global Ventures and chairman of Grupo Globo, responsible for overseeing the company's investments in new ventures. The last 10 minutes of the panel will be a Q&A. Please send us your questions during the presentation on the Q&A, and we will make sure they get to our speakers. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Kai-Fu Lee and Roberto Marinho Neto. It is a great honor to have you both here today. Roberto, please take it from here. Thank you.
Hi, Roberto. Are you going to get us started?
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Bom dia, Kai-Fu.
Bom dia.
Please, Kai-Fu, take it from here. Should we start your presentation?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. Let me now share my screen. I'm going to talk about the China model for entrepreneurship and innovation and its implications for AI and what China has accomplished and what that might suggest and inspire for the entrepreneurs in Brazil. So if we think about AI, first let me just clarify, we're not talking about general AI, what's on the right here, not talking about replicating human, superhuman. That's really long-term, and we don't know that when that will happen, if that will happen. We are talking about narrow AI, which means within a particular domain, let's say giving loans, recognizing speech, or even driving autonomous vehicle, but one task with a lot of data that the AI can actually outperform human in that specific task. And of course, internet AI is the first phase of narrow AI. And all of this great news, media we see about AI is driven by a technology called deep learning, invented about 14 years ago, but really came into popularity in the last 5 years with AlphaGo as the big event that woke everybody up that AI will change the world. China has suddenly become a leader in AI. US and China basically co-lead AI, as I talked about in my book, AI Superpowers. And there are 6 major reasons why China has suddenly, in a matter of 5 years, gone from well behind in technology to becoming a co-leader in AI. You might think that US has all the AI superstars in research, which is true. These are the Turing Award recipients, including the top 3 who invented deep learning. But actually, China has a massive number of engineers. Chinese universities put a great emphasis on engineering. Among engineering, computer science is the most important, and everyone in computer science wants to do AI. So amazingly, you see that on top, as predicted by Allen Institute in Seattle, that Chinese researchers are even catching up, not at the super top Turing Award level, but even top 10%, and soon 1% of the paper, China will have a greater than 50% share. And that is very much helped by the tremendous engineering education and the social and belief that engineers are one of the greatest professions. The second reason particularly relevant to this group is that China has come up with a very different model of entrepreneurship. In the US, people in Silicon Valley think they work very hard, they fight very tough, But from the eyes of a Chinese entrepreneur, the American entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley are very gentlemanly and rather slow. The Chinese entrepreneurs work amazingly fast. Work ethic called 996 or 007, meaning working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week as a entry level. And the true tenacious startup should work 007, which is noon to midnight, 7 days a week. And working hard isn't enough, but also Chinese entrepreneurs on the internet came up with amazing business models that, because of China's large population, raised a lot of money, which led to a large usage, and the companies fought for becoming a monopoly. Monopoly is usually considered a bad thing in business schools, but in internet, it's all about wanting to become a monopoly. Case in point is Chinese food delivery company, Meituan. It started as a Groupon copycat, but then it built up its own fleet of delivery. It went into all kinds of businesses. It basically covers the business of the American companies, Grubhub and OpenTable and Yelp, and of course Groupon. And its valuation is about 10 times of these 4 American companies combined together, valued at 125 billion US, created in just 7 years. It employs 3 million people delivering food. In China, you can order any takeout from about 1,000 restaurants delivered to your home within 30 minutes for 70 cents. And that is the power of working incredibly hard, solving user problems, using scale, population, and of course AI to accomplish that. And as a result, the Chinese entrepreneurs started being copycats. They were inspired by Silicon Valley ideas and built the Chinese version and localized them. But over time, Chinese startups and entrepreneurs started to innovate. And you see in the third column here, great examples. VIP Kid is our investment. It now teaches about 800,000 kids paying $50 an hour to learn English from American teachers, kind of Uber for English learning. TikTok is a company you probably all know. What you may not know is that it's worth 125 billion US dollars, and its net profit last year was 3 billion US dollars. This was all created in a matter of about 7 years. And that is the speed, tenacity of Chinese entrepreneurship on a large population, so much so that Chinese ecosystem now looks very different from the American ecosystem. I don't have time to go into details, but I would suggest that you study it because I think Brazil has an opportunity because of its large population to model its entrepreneurial space and opportunity in the China model. Silicon Valley is great. We all admire it. I worked there. But even most people in Silicon Valley would say it's inimitable. That is, Silicon Valley has its magical ingredients for success, and those are not always replicable. But the Chinese model started with models inspired by Silicon Valley with copycats, but eventually became its own innovation model. And that's something that should be useful for entrepreneurs in Brazil. And the Chinese entrepreneurs are not just successful in China. This shows you in the last 4 years, the red indicates the China market share in various economies, especially growing large economies, including Brazil. You will see that the Chinese share has consistently gone up. The American share has come down. What is troubling is that the local entrepreneur share are also not growing. So I really hope that this talk will give you ideas and we'll see that gray bar increase on the right when we meet again. And of course, all these great apps are building lots of data, and data is what drives deep learning. Deep learning is becoming more well-known. It's not such a secret. You don't need rocket science. You just need good engineers and lots of data. This shows you more data builds better systems, gets more users, collects more entrepreneur gets more venture capital investment and gets even more users. And China has more data than any other country. And in the era of AI, data is the new oil. And if that's the case, then China is the OPEC. So Brazil also has a lot of users, so there is your opportunity. Of course, lots of venture capital is important. And also the Chinese government has been very helpful in building infrastructure, for example, new highways and new cities to enable autonomous vehicle, and also investment opportunities trying to encourage angel funds and early stage tech funds with government investment. These are all important ingredients to China's success. So Internet AI defined the first phase. That's largely over in US and China, but it's not for Brazil. So I think you should really think about the first wave, build Internet apps, use it to collect data, use the AI to build use the data to build a strong foundation of AI, then other opportunities will come. The second wave is the business AI, using AI for banks, insurance, education, and so on. The third wave is when AI can see and hear, speech recognition, computer vision, and also using IoT to capture sensors and integrate them in deep learning. And finally, wave 4 is robotics and autonomous vehicles, where AI begins to move around just like people. These 4 waves are all happening in US and China. And I think Brazil has an opportunity in all of the above, but the important foundation is build up Internet AI because there's the most data and most direct way to connect data to monetization. These are some of the AI companies that my company, Sinovation Ventures, has funded. We have 5 unicorns and soon to become 6 unicorns in AI. We're quite excited about that. And AI will create a huge amount of value globally. PwC estimates about 16 trillion net incremental GDP to the world, and that's a huge opportunity. And it's also important to note, this is not just going to come from more AI unicorns, but really it's about infusing AI into traditional companies. And you can do that by either locally optimized, keeping the business process the same, just take the data and automate parts of the business. Or you can go into using AI to replace and cost down and replace humans, which is an important part of AI. There are employment implications, but it's clearly something, cost cutting is big on people's minds, especially in light of the coronavirus. Or you can start to really change the company's process as a third step, or disrupt the entire industry. Give you a few examples of how AI infused into traditional businesses is happening in China. One example is that we helped a company that does automotive loans. They had 400 million default per year, very big company. In 7 weeks, 2 engineers reduced that by about 12%. So adding to the bottom line of the company, not to mention replacing loan officers. Another example of really revamping the whole company structure is a retail company that uses AI to predict how much of each merchandise will be sold in each store, and that in turn changes its warehouse, factories, retailer, distributor, logistics, inventory, and significantly reduce inventory carrying costs, improve productivity, better shelf life, and greater customer satisfaction, and also accretes to the bottom line. And in area of healthcare, there are many ways. China is now collecting a lot more big data. US and Europe are blocked by various privacy concerns. China does anonymize the data, but at that level, there's no HIPAA laws preventing the data to be aggregated and shared. There are laws preventing data to be sold or violated, but with that enough protection, the Chinese pharmaceuticals are collecting lots more data for diagnosis, drug discovery, new forms of treatment are shown here. So Sinovation Ventures, looking at infusion as a huge opportunity, is now building a new fund, which is very different from previous funds. We believe AI is just about to tip many traditional industries: healthcare, retail, manufacturing, education. So our approach is take all the AI we've built up. We have an AI institute with great AI engineers. We will invest in a traditional company, send our engineers to put AI in their system, improve their margin, reduce their costs, and achieve a multiplicative effect in terms of return on investment. So to summarize, I think China's success that might be useful for Brazil, first is that the talent base is very important, But the good news is you don't need to have Turing Award recipients. If you already have good computer science graduates, learn AI, and it's not that hard to learn. AI is not a rocket science. That can give you a significant number of AI engineers, and that makes all the difference. Secondly, in terms of technology and products, Silicon Valley is inimitable. China is imitable. So I would encourage you to study the Chinese playbook, the Chinese success stories, and see if you can build Chinese companies using their business models, but in Brazil, because you have a tremendous population with a lot of usage and excitement for online uses. And lastly, in terms of ecosystem, there does need to be more VCs, especially encouragement to invest in early stages, because that's critical. Once a company reaches Series B or C, has revenue and profit, there are investors all over the world to invest in them. But that angel pre-A and A is all the important. So I'm glad to see you have a contest today, and hopefully there will be some unicorns from the competition today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kai-Fu. These are perhaps the most challenging times in our generation. You've been working with the most advanced technology, particularly artificial intelligence, for years and years. These technologies that connect the world and create huge amounts of wealth. But all these technologies could not forecast or let alone prevent the big pandemic outbreak like this one that we're living right now. What are the lessons we learned from this?
Well, I do think in the long term, pandemic prevention is one of the grand goals of AI. AI only works with data. So in this particular coronavirus situation, there was a company in Canada called Blue Dot that actually noticed the anomaly, a larger than usual number of pneumonia patients or like pneumonia patients in Wuhan. And they sent an alert to their customers. But it was a small company, and I don't know if it's grand claims can be made. You can see that in the press. But I think what's important is data has to flow in for intelligence to happen. So today there are really sparse amount of data not integrated. I think in the long term, I envision a world in which we could be wearing wearables. There would be IoT sending from hospitals, from us, with protection of privacy and anonymization, data to the cloud where anomalies can be discovered early. And I would hope the next pandemic would be predicted and squashed before it takes off.
When I came to visit you in China, you showed me a bunch of fascinating AI applications. But what were the top AI applications you have seen now fighting COVID-19?
We see robots doing delivery because of social distancing. People actually don't want to be close to other people. So in hospitals in Wuhan, robots deliver medical supplies instead of people, and that reduce contact and save lives. Another interesting one is our investment in silico medicine. They used AI to predict ways that could block the COVID-19 from spreading inside the body. This is still, of course, quite early. Whether it turns from the vaccine or not, we don't know. But AI is really helping the drug discovery. In the longer term, not particularly related to disease per se, my biggest hope is that AI has accelerated the world in digitization. You know, we're having this conference online, people are learning, 1 billion kids are online learning. So as people's activities move online, their activities become data, and data becomes AI, and new AI ideas will come out because AI can plug into digitized processes and needs data. So I can envision a much faster acceleration of AI in education, telemedicine, throughout the world. China was actually already embracing much of this digitization and online behavior and building AI. But now the whole world is spending a lot of time, like us, at a home, connecting by conferencing. And once this happens, you can imagine, you know, we're now comfortable dealing with each other, not face-to-face, but through video conferencing. But imagine if this is not Kai-Fu Lee, the human, talking to you, but an avatar that looks like me, talks like me, you would probably find it acceptable. And that technology, we're on the cusp of building digital humans that are photorealistic as well as sounds real. We cannot yet build robots that look real, but now that we're online, then you can have these avatars, you can have companies develop services that normally require human to human, now can be digital human to human in areas like customer service, customer support, sales, lectures, and there are lots of, a Chinese company just came out with an AI digital human reporter, and he or she looks actually just like a human. So I think these are things that are not medical related, but the accelerated digitization will lead to AI faster and better for the whole world.
I saw that post. It's always good following you on Twitter. Times of crisis can also be times of opportunities for those who can actually anticipate trends and demands from the public. Which opportunities may arise in this post-COVID world? And what advice would you share to entrepreneurs willing to explore such opportunities?
I think opportunities are everywhere. First, to be realistic, this is not a great time to get funding. Economies are shrinking. And being an entrepreneur requires a certain resilience and recognition of the challenges. But it's also a good test to see who the real entrepreneurs are. So if you really want to be an entrepreneur, even in this tough environment, there are plenty of opportunities. As an example, I gave some examples already. I'll give a different one in education. I know that, Roberto, you care a lot about education. We're also big investors in education. Now, online education has become an accepted behavior. Take that as an example. Kids are at home, not just studying English and math, but physical education and the group activities, team activities, group projects are being done online. So education will, I think, really take off, and people are going to be sticking with a habit, because one of the key things is that the pandemic creates an opportunity for us to shed old habits and form new ones. So willingness to learn online is a new habit. And psychologists told us that habits form about 70 days. It takes 70 days to have a habit. And we're home just about 70 days now. So I think people are going to be flocking online for education. And also when it comes to education, AI can play a lot of roles. AI can give a lecture, interact with kids in very one-on-one ways. One of the key things about AI is that it can be personal, right? The fact that Amazon, Facebook target each person with individualized content is what makes it great. So education can become personalized. It can be entertaining. We have investments in some Chinese companies that show an online cartoon character teacher can create greater interactivity and leads to higher scores for the kids that the cartoon teacher teaches for young age preschool children. So I think this is very promising. And what this means for teachers is that if AI can teach much of the content and question answering and make it fun, while the human can put the human element, becoming a good mentor, teach methodology, teach abstract knowledge, and also encourage and motivate the kids. So it's really a human AI symbiosis in education. And that's the area I'm most excited about. The other is, of course, healthcare, and we talked about that.
Talking about 70 days and habits, how's your life now in China? Are you at home? Are you back at the office? How's your day?
Well, actually, working from home made us realize that sometimes our productivity can be higher at home. I can pack back-to-back meetings. The traffic in Beijing is terrible. Can take
also true
as well. Can take you an hour to go from place A to place B. So we've come up with new regimens of working where we all go to work for meetings on, let's say, Mondays and Thursdays. And then the other days, many people work from home. And that actually leads to higher productivity. China has, for now, done very well against COVID-19. It's kind of kept it under control. And what we can see is that the economy is back to a new normal. And I would say that what's important for China is the discipline of the people to do what they're told. Stay home, wear masks, of social distancing. And the government manages to keep that well. So if other countries can do the same, it would seem there's a good hope that the new normal is probably 90% as convenient as the old normal, and maybe even more productive in certain ways.
You were in Brazil last year in a time that commercial tensions between China and the US brought the fear of a divide in the world. Such a divide would be bad for countries like Brazil that has or used to have good relationships both with China and the US. What can we expect in a post-COVID world? Do you believe that countries will seek to collaborate more, or should we expect increased tensions?
I would very much like countries to collaborate more. I think we all share that dream, but it looks like that's not currently where the world is going. There is bifurcation of US and China. US is interested in decoupling from China for a variety of reasons. And also in many other countries, there is a greater movement to focus on the country itself and away from globalism. So unfortunately, I think globalism is now trending down. Clearly, globalism is better for all countries, in particular developing countries, and it's more efficient. Let each country do what it does best, but we're not likely to see the kind of globalism we had in the last 15 years. So going forward, I think people should have the hope for globalism, but be prepared to be self-sufficient. So in this audience, I would really encourage people to think about, now you've got US and China as two models, two potential partners, two potential teachers, two potential leaders. Leverage that positive aspect. As US and China compete more, you can choose to partner with companies from either country, depending on your situation. And also independently build up your own ecosystem. Actually, not many countries have that luxury that Brazil has. You have a large population that is sufficient to build your own ecosystem for mobile apps, healthcare, education. For many other countries that have, tens of millions of people or even millions of people, I think they are destined to use American or possibly Chinese solutions. But you have a choice. So I think in that respect, there are positive elements.
Switching a bit gears here, some important Chinese companies, tech companies, as you mentioned, are winning international markets. Alibaba has today a presence in multiple countries. ByteDance also, as you mentioned, transformed TikTok in a global success. Its competitor, Kuaishou, is also doing well. In Brazil, Didi is fighting Uber for the leadership in the rideshare market. Are Chinese tech companies well positioned to become global leaders, or are they focused more in Southeast Asia?
I think the smaller Chinese companies will tend to focus on China simply because it's such a large market. Imagine you're a $500 million company. Sounds like a big company, but you probably got 1,000 employees. You're struggling to raise the next round of funding, want to go public in 2 years. If you're such a company and you're going to hire 10 engineers, are you going to really ask these 10 engineers to build a Brazilian or Indian version of your product and learn all about the culture, start from ground zero, face a higher risk? Or are you going to put them on your existing Chinese products or maybe build a new Chinese product? Of course, it's the latter because there are 1.3 billion people in China. So it's both a blessing and a curse. A blessing in the sense that people can focus on domestic product and do extremely well and become huge unicorns. A curse because it's hard for them to make a decision to go abroad. So only, it seems, looking at the past, mostly it's companies that's already 10 billion plus, like the ones you mentioned, that start to look abroad. And the smaller ones, I think, will have to become stronger in China first. and build its critical mass there. There's one set of exceptions, which is there are probably a few hundred companies in China built from the get-go to go after markets that are abroad. Frankly, the Chinese entrepreneurial environment is very tough. It's a gladiatorial environment, very tenacious. So entrepreneurs may choose not to fight competitors locally because they're too tough and too well-funded. And also some may be already dominant or incumbent. So it's easier to go to find another market and maybe even copy some Chinese technologies and bring them there. So we do see some startups, maybe a few hundred doing that.
In your book, you talk a bit about this gladiator spirit and how companies actually in China copied each other. And so, and you always taught me that we shouldn't, a Chinese company can't actually take a lot of their eyeballs out of the Chinese market. Can you give us some examples for those that haven't read your book yet?
Sure. Well, probably the best example is in payment, right? Payment is one of the stickiest mobile applications. Once you use a payment, it's convenient. It's already connected to your mobile device and app store and all the others. It's very hard to switch. It's not worth it to switch because they're all roughly the same, and it's hard to change. So you would think an incumbent, a leader, whether in the US it would be Visa, MasterCard, or PayPal, Venmo, etc. Very hard to replace that. So in China, there was actually a much stronger player 5 years ago called Alipay. They dominated payment. They were 80% of the market. But another company, Tencent, they have the leading leading social platform called WeChat, and they basically saw an opportunity that because you don't have your payment app open all the time, you do have your social app open all the time. So it can be one fewer click to pay by your social app, and if they could entice people to use it to go through the initial inertia, right, getting onto the WeChat Pay, then people might stick with it. So what they did was they spent billions of dollars. They would do things like they would incent the Didi, which is the Uber equivalent in China, drivers to, if the driver and the passenger both use WeChat Pay, let's say a ride is $5, then the driver will get $9 and the rider only pays $1. So they're basically throwing $8 per ride as a way to build customers. You might think that's crazy, but $8 for customer acquisition for a payment app with a lifetime value that is huge is absolutely worth it. So they spend billions. They even gave money away on the big Chinese show, the Chinese New Year show, which is like Super Bowl in the US. They basically gave away money. They said, well, connect your WeChat Pay to your bank, and we're going to be sending out, $500 million. You have to be there to collect it. So they over a period of 2 or 3 years, they took over approximately half of the market. That's unthinkable for a startup. So you can imagine, people may ask question, wouldn't a strong monopoly tend to stifle innovation? Well, not really in China, because if you're a huge monopoly like Alipay, you could still be attacked and challenged. And Jack Ma and Alibaba calls this the Pearl Harbor on Alibaba with the Tencent attack with WeChat Pay. So you have to really be on your toes, be cautious. The competitor may pull a Pearl Harbor on you, then the monopoly is not so stagnant.
So it's big on the payment side. It's actually almost like a duopoly, right? Is there on the payment, is there opportunity for a new company, or has WeChat and Alipay won the game?
I think the next disruption might create the opportunity. Without the disruption, it's very unlikely for there to be a third player at this point. It's neck and neck, and once it's neck and neck, they each go after what they do well. WeChat, because it's a social platform, allows people to send each other money. So parents giving allowances, people settling poker bets and things like that are better than on WeChat. Alipay, on the other hand, is going financial. So you put your money here, then we'll give you interest, you can make investments, and you can do international settling. Alipay is expanding globally. So they're 50-50, but they're also going after their niches, and they're getting stronger. So until there is a new thing, like the next mobile phone, it's going to be harder to unseat these guys.
It's a hot subject, and I think fintechs are booming in Brazil.
Yeah.
In your last slide, you mentioned talent, technology, and as an ecosystem as key factors to develop AI and innovation in Brazil. Could you elaborate in more depth about how can we promote entrepreneurship and beef up the investment environment?
Sure. I think the early stage is the hardest because it's the riskiest investment. The American entrepreneurship was very much bootstrapped by a lot of people with social responsibility, people who've been entrepreneurs, successful, and they became angel investors. And that was a group of people very critical to the American success. A similar story in China, but there weren't as many angels because the Chinese entrepreneurs are younger. And when they start a company in their 20s, become a billionaire in their 30s, they're not quite ready to step back and be an angel investor as much as the American entrepreneur. So the government took the further step of saying, hey, look, if you set up an angel fund in my city, I will invest in it. If you're good, that is, I will invest in it up to 40%. And if you lose money, that's life. I'm an LP. I lose money with everyone else. But if you make money, I will give part of my profit back to the GP, back to the angel. So now there is an added incentive for people to do angel funds. And this idea, which started in Israel, then went to Singapore and China, is very powerful. I would also say that it's not necessary for this to be done by the government. Companies or groups of companies, people like yourselves, can really do that as well, because angels really, the return on investment for the angel investors has always been shaky, because it's 1 in 50, 1 in 100 that really makes it a big hit. So some kind of improved incentives, whether by government or by some other entity, is important, because the return isn't what builds the ecosystem, but rather you have, let's say you're an angel investor, you invested in 100 companies, one became a unicorn, a few, you made some more money, you made 2x by working really hard for 10 years. That is not a great return. However, these 100 companies you invested, their CEOs, their employees have learned and became entrepreneurs and worked in startups, and they may, in their next jobs or next companies, become huge success, possibly without your investment. So it's great for the ecosystem, but not such a great deal for the angel investor. So I'm all for making the angel investors deal a little sweeter.
Can we expect Chinese capital to seek opportunities in Brazil for tech related? China invests a lot in infrastructure in Brazil, but not a lot still in tech.
I think possibly, but in two specific ways. I think it's too hard for a VC to enter another country. We tried to enter US, and it was very difficult. So we eventually phased out our US presence. It's very difficult. But two things might make it work for Chinese investors in Brazil. One is Chinese investors investing in Chinese entrepreneurs, taking apps outside China into Brazil. I think then it's a more known quantity. They know how to evaluate business models and entrepreneurs because they're Chinese to begin with. The other way is they partner with a Brazilian entity, maybe a company, maybe an individual, and they collaborate so the local expertise is not missing. The main problem is the landing cost of going to another country and also the risk in the potential return on investment are two things making it challenging. So these two ways would make it better.
Kai-Fu, we'll do a lightning round because I want to throw questions from our friends that are watching us. So
okay.
Let's do a quick roundup. 20 years from now, will you prefer a real doctor or an AI doctor?
Both AI doctor, human doctor using an AI doctor.
Great. I love that passage in the book as well. What is the best advice someone has ever given you?
My PhD advisor told me that I don't agree with what you do, but I'll support it.
We entered the decade with the US as the world leading economy. Who will close the decade as the leader?
US and China neck to neck, very hard to tell.
Google Docs or Microsoft Word?
I always pick Google, but sometimes I have to use Microsoft Word, like writing a book.
Peking duck or Brazilian barbecue? Churrasco.
If it's Peking duck made in my favorite restaurant in Beijing, I would pick that. But any other duck, I would pick Brazilian barbecue.
Finally, one word to describe Brazil.
Passion.
Great. Let me jump here from Hiron Fontana in our YouTube channel. Dr. Lee, how do you deal with cultural differences in applying AI? Could you share some examples on how we should adapt AI applications to different cultural scenarios?
Certainly. I think different cultures potentially look at privacy differently. Now, we should respect privacy of all users in all cultures, but I think in US and Europe, I would go out of the way, follow GDPR, make sure that's addressed first before the convenience of the product. Whereas in many other developing countries, I think convenience is more important. So doing a good enough job in privacy would be okay. Obviously not to make real gross violations or mistakes or things that are not appropriate. I would also say that I think there is in some cultures like US, there's kind of trust needs to be earned. So if you're a Facebook app, I start not trusting you, and there are concerns about apps and companies and that they might do bad things. So I think privacy is an example, going out of the way to address that in the AI, even being extra careful. And there are concerns about, for example, bias. So all of that needs to be built in. In developing countries, these are important as well. But sometimes companies succeed by building things very quickly and then addressing these issues later. There's no right and wrong, but actually people's fundamental priorities are a little bit different.
From Caio Amado. Hi, Dr. Lee. How can AI impact medical evaluations and were medical appointments made by video before COVID-19 in China? What else changed in the healthcare system with COVID?
Right. So certainly COVID makes telemedicine more appropriate because we don't want doctors to get sick. And many problems, including COVID-19, can be treated remotely. So I think that makes telemedicine a big winner. I wouldn't say it's hugely succeeded yet, but I think it opens people's minds. And once we have telemedicine, then medical diagnosis and question answering become digitized. They become data. Then we can train AI doctors based on that. So this is a new opportunity to get that data. And finally, I think AI works best when it can tailor and personalize treatment for each person. And one could imagine that the future AI diagnosing system can ask a lot of questions, find out all kinds of things about the user, and use wearable computing to feed more data to customize treatment because it may have discovered something. Because maybe you wear a wearable when you exercise, it finds irregular heartbeat, and that's fed into the AI system and gives you a different treatment. But connected to that is genome sequencing, and that's such a large amount of data, and it's very unique. It's completely unique to each person. So it's the perfect information to use a personalized AI treatment. And human doctors cannot digest the whole sequence, but AI can. So I see this personalized medicine, personalized diagnosis becoming much, much more accurate than human doctors over the next 20 years or so.
From Kaiwei Zong, where do you see areas, industries where Brazilian and Chinese entrepreneurs can collaborate and build great ventures?
I think the Chinese entrepreneurs have more experience in scaling in the Chinese business model and also now in data and AI. And I think these are quite important. And I think the way the two countries can work together is the Brazilian entrepreneur knows about local culture, environment, language, and user needs and preferences and habits. But the Chinese entrepreneur or VC has the playbook. I mean, I could write a book with the 10 Chinese playbooks of success of what took Meituan, Didi, and others to success, whereas these books are different from the Silicon Valley. So I would really encourage the Brazilian entrepreneurs to learn the Chinese playbook. A lot has been written in my book, in the internet, and study that. If you have a Chinese VC or partner or a friend, that's great. If not, the information is also available on the internet.
And I'll throw a question for myself. Can we expect a new book? AI Superpowers was one of the best books I read in 2018 and 19. Can we expect something new?
Yes, but in 2021, next year, there will be a new book. I'm writing it now.
Great, we'll get the post-COVID world as well. From Piero Minardi, could you comment on the role of the Chinese government supporting entrepreneurs? What can governments learn from both China and Silicon Valley?
The Chinese government, I think the two most powerful things the Chinese government does, one is building infrastructure, and the second is providing initial support for angel investors and early entrepreneurs. So on the infrastructure, that's something that companies can't afford to do, right? Building out a very good 3G, 4G, 5G. The China 3G, 4G is better than anywhere else in the world, even though it's a very large country. And the Chinese government saw the importance of that and made sure it's high quality penetration throughout the large geography. And that provides a perfect platform on which entrepreneurs can build apps. And other examples are building a new city with pedestrians and cars separated in the downtown. And that will reduce the accidents for autonomous vehicles, allowing the technology to launch sooner. A high-speed train, many other examples. So building infrastructure, that's something the private enterprise cannot do, and it requires the government to do it. The second thing is finding the most fragile part of entrepreneurship. That is the early stages, the first 2 years, building a company. And some governments go in directly giving money to the entrepreneurs. That is not so smart because government officials cannot judge what's an entrepreneur's potential and the potential likelihood of success. So it's much better for the government to pick trusted VCs and angels and give them economic upside and let them do their thing. And that's something that's maybe a little more top-down in China. Actually, it's not strictly top-down because cities build up these incentives for entrepreneurs and VCs to land. And they also, from a city planning level, not every city tries to be everything. Some cities might say, well, we're very good in AI research. We're going to be an AI city. Some might say we're much better in biosciences. And others might say we're better in manufacturing, so we'll do robots. So cities pick their strength and build
autonomous vehicles. Cities projected for autonomous vehicles as well.
Yes, Guangzhou. I just tweeted a company we funded in Guangzhou because Guangzhou is like Phoenix in the US. It has nice weather, it doesn't rain too much, it's not too cold. Ideal weather to launch autonomous vehicles. So the Guangzhou people and leaders are very forward-thinking and attracted many of the autonomous vehicle companies to Guangzhou. And I would say more so than, let's say, Phoenix has to attract American autonomous vehicle companies.
From Raimundo Barros, our friend, how do you compare the work ethics of Silicon Valley and China?
If we look at the entrepreneurial tech space, I think the work ethic is much stronger in China, partly because China has been poor for 100 or 200 years. And there are many families that has been poor with no one ever going to college up until the single child who may have been born 30 years ago. So there's great expectations by that young man or woman, as well as his or her parents and village. So because of the poverty over 200 years, many generations of poverty, high expectations for you're my only hope, and because of a single child policy, it's no longer there, but it has been for many years, that one 30-year-old man or woman has two parents and four grandparents who expect that person to be successful and bring them out of poverty to the extent that they're in poverty, or bring them riches if they're already middle class. So the expectation is huge, and that's a large reason that has caused the hardworking behavior. I believe once China has a large middle class, the work ethic won't be as tough as it is today. But I think another 20 or 30 years can be expected. I should also clarify that I'm talking about entrepreneurs and tech companies. There are obviously, people who work in state-owned enterprises and who have a desk job, back office job. And I wouldn't say that the average Chinese person in those jobs necessarily work harder than others in other countries.
Final question. What do you believe will be the biggest behavioral change in China after the COVID-19? What about in Silicon Valley and the rest of the world? You know both places really well. I think you're one of the few people I know that know profoundly the Silicon Valley and know very well China and have worked a lot for both American and Chinese companies.
I think the two places will be somewhat similar. I would say healthcare will become one of the top areas for investment and entrepreneurship. And in particular, healthcare connected to data and AI and pandemics. And of course, drug discovery. So I think healthcare, biosciences, that will be one big area that will grow. I also think online education will be an area that now that people's habits have changed, willingness have increased, will create a great place for entrepreneurship. In the past, Chinese online education companies have already become quite successful with probably 5 or 6 unicorns in the space already. US has lagged behind, but this stay at home may change that and make education kind of the new hot area for people to consider. I also think the decoupling of US and China, while at a global level is unfortunate and inefficient, I think it does create opportunities. There will be Chinese entrepreneurs who can predict certain technologies may not be supplied by the US, so that creates a new opportunity to build a company. Whereas before, it may be too hard to compete with that American company. But now that American government may forbid that American company from exporting to China or to certain companies in China, then the startup would make sense. So, every crisis also creates opportunities.
Kai-Fu, I hope this pandemic is over soon. I can come back to China and visit you. It's always very fun and very educational. Thank you for joining us. I know it was really early on Thursday morning. So thank you. Paula, take it from here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kaifuli and Roberto, for this great conversation. I'm sure our audience will leave today inspired and looking forward to the future of AI in Brazil. And now, after this inspiring conversation, it's time for us to announce the results of the startup battle. I am thrilled to announce that the winners of a spot at Google for Startup Acceleration Program are MOL Mediação Online and Tela Vita. Congratulations for creating innovative products that will help consumers currently underserved by the market and will foster Brazil's socioeconomic development. Thank you everyone for participating in today's panel. Before we leave, I would like to remind you to follow us in our social media so you can learn more about our next events. This panel and our past panels are available on our YouTube channel. And I will see you next week. Thank you and goodbye.
A crise chegou. E agora? Agora você se informa, você pesquisa, você vê os números, você tenta ver o que vem amanhã. Agora você acompanha as lives e conteúdos diários do BTG Pactual, com grandes nomes do mercado sobre o agora. Disponíveis até para quem não é cliente. Acesse btgpactualdigital.com/lives. A crise chegou. E agora? Agora você se informa, você pesquisa, você vê os números, você tenta ver o que vem amanhã. Agora você acompanha as lives e conteúdos diários do BTG Pactual, com grandes nomes do mercado sobre o agora. Disponíveis até para quem não é cliente. Acesse btgpactualdigital.com/lives.